And we're back here breaking down the last episode of Hawkeye here today to close out 2021, airing last Wednesday right before Christmas. So This Is Christmas was the title of the episode, episode 6. Presumably the first season, unless they do a second season, we'll talk about that. But we got a lot to get into from this very newsworthy, eventful, exciting season finale, series finale, whatever it might be, of Hawkeye from last week. Let's bring on the crew, BR_Dr. Chris Mueller from the Twitter machine. Chris, what's going on, my man?
Oh, not much. I'm looking forward to talking about this. This was a good episode.
It was a good episode. I feel like so much has happened since we last spoke, where I feel like this has been kind of on the back burner. Book of Boba Fett went up today as we're speaking. Spider-Man's still going crazy. I saw it again yesterday, and the movie theater was packed, so that would mark my third time seeing it. I'm just obsessed with it. But we can't forget about Hawkeye. Phil, you're here as well. Phil DL616 on the Twitter machine. Happy holidays, Phil, and welcome back.
Happy holidays to you too. Yeah, this was a great episode. I thought this was a good way to end the series. Well,
I think so as well. Yeah, I mean, let's get into it, Phil. With your thoughts on this, it's not. I don't want to say polarizing, but some people have liked the show, some people not so much. Some episodes a bit slower than others. I've liked the show, maybe not more than other shows than we've gotten this year, and we could do the whole comparing thing where you would rank certain shows, and maybe we'll talk about that at the end. But I mean, obviously, it's all subjective. But as far as this episode goes, how do you think this episode did? How good of a job did this episode do of kind of closing things out and wrapping up the season finale and kind of tying up all the loose ends from the last 6 episodes?
I thought it did a good job because it had a lot of loose ends to tie up in one episode. I thought it did a fairly good job. You could argue that they got to some conclusions a little bit too quick, but I thought it did fine for what it was.
Was there anything from this episode that you think they could have done, maybe not just better, but anything that we were hoping that would be resolved or anything that we were hoping to get answers to that we didn't? Because, I mean, obviously we got the Kingpin reveal in the last episode. He was, played a very, very big role, no pun intended, on this episode, which we'll get to. But even the Watch, we got the loose end tied up on that at the very end there with his wife, which we were kind of speculating a few episodes ago as far as whether she was an agent or not, as in the comics, and that was confirmed. I feel like everything else they kind of tied up. Am I missing something or no?
No, I think they caught everything. I mean, I think they could have gave a little bit more time to the Watch reveal because it was such a big deal early on, and it was kind of like, all right, well, here's the explanation. That's it.
Pretty much. That, and actually, I was surprised that they didn't get to, not that they needed to, but I was a little surprised that the dad never came up again. She did say this episode that she was trying to fill in his absence after he died, and everything that kind of happened with Kingpin was his fault. She was kind of putting the blame on him when she was explaining it to Kate. Were you surprised, Phil, that the dad didn't play a bigger role? Obviously, I guess he is confirmed to be dead unless he comes back at some other point. That we didn't find out that the mom was behind it? Because, again, if you don't see a dead body, then it's hard to determine that it actually happened in the Marvel Universe. And we never saw his body, so it's hard to tell.
I assume that he is dead. I think that line of, he was in debt to Kingpin, and that's why she was doing what she was doing. It made sense because I always assumed that either he was in on it too, or his hands weren't as clean as we thought they were.
Yeah, I was going to say that he wasn't exactly put in the best light here. I don't know if that was her just throwing him under the bus, or if he actually was as involved with this stuff, as much of the crime scene as she was. But that was a little surprising to me. But what about you, Chris? Were you as satisfied coming out of this episode as we were with some of the stuff they tied up here?
Yeah, I was. I think that there was a few things that I understand why some people might have been disappointed with. Like, I saw a couple people complaining that, Jack was just a big red herring and he ended up being, like, nothing important at the end. But I actually thought that was the funniest way to go.
Mm-hmm.
And he had one of my favorite lines of the whole episode when he's talking with that little kid at the party, and he's like, "Do you remember when you peed your pants in the Bahamas or whatever it is?" Yeah. He's like, "I do. Everybody does." But yeah, I enjoyed it. I really liked that we got some scenes of like Clint showing Kate how to make trick arrows, and obviously the ending. We sort of called the ending a while ago. Like, it's going to end with him walking in with the dog, and Kate's going to be there, and they're all going to have Christmas, and it'll be fine. And like, that's exactly what happened. But I was a little disappointed that we didn't get more with the LARPers. Like, I thought there would be a scene of Kate and Clint and then possibly Jack, based on that one little conversation, maybe joining them for one LARPing session or something, because that one girl like was trying to recruit Jack after the sword fight to come LARP with them.
Yeah,
that should have been the post-credit scene.
Yeah, I was surprised that wasn't the post-credit scene. So we didn't get any other post-credit scenes on the show aside from the very last episode. And usually with some of the other shows anyway, we've gotten a post-credit scene, in episodes 4 or 5 or whatever, later on in the series. But we didn't get that with this one until the very end. We got Rogers the Musical instead. So I was a little disappointed we didn't have the LARPing scene, although they were involved in the final fight, which was, a pleasant surprise. Your thought? We're bouncing around all over the place, but what were your thoughts, Chris, on the full-length Save the City scene from Rogers the Musical? Because personally, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was a funny joke. I mean, the dialogue, the lyrics are actually terrible, but I know that was intentional. I thoroughly enjoyed that as a gag to kind of wrap up what we saw in the first episode.
It was perfect. It was so over-the-top cheesy and exactly what Broadway is. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, they went all out. Like, that was a whole production. It looked great. I mean, all the people that they got to do it, like, are probably actually talented stage actors, because, like, some of those people really could sing. And I was just so happy that we got something like that. And the fact that it was like a 4 or 5 minute long sequence blew my mind. Like, because I think a week or two ago I said something like, I really hope they either produce like a full musical or just one full number from it and put it up somewhere. And that's what we get for the end credit scene. It made me so happy.
Do you think that, I mean, I didn't watch it like immediately after the fact, so I don't know what exactly the criticism was or the reviews of that one post-credit scene were, but do you think if it's successful enough and enough people want to see it, they might actually do more with that and, like you said, Chris, make it into a full-length musical or its own Disney Plus thing like they did with Hamilton about a year ago?
I mean, I kind of doubt it, but I don't know if the demand for that would be there, like, because if you're going to produce a whole musical, it's an expensive venture, and they might not think that it's worth it just for the joke, but clearly they thought it was worth it for one song. The problem is, like, how do you write, however many songs are typically in a musical that are, like, intentionally cheesy, but in a way that's good? Which, like, they did that with one song, but could they do that with 10 or whatever it would be? So, yeah. I don't know. But, yeah, that just made me ridiculously happy that the show closed with that. I was a little disappointed that that it didn't end with the song, like, coming to a close and then it moving to a shot of Clint being like, all right, guys, we're out of here. Like, yeah. I wanted that to be the final straw that broke the camel's back and made him leave early.
Yeah, no, that would have been great. I was expecting that we would get some sort of a cameo at the end there from someone sitting in the crowd, not Clint specifically, but just anyone sitting there watching the musical, like a Loki variant or something completely ridiculous, which would have been hilarious. But the way they went instead was perfectly fine. What about you, Phil? What were your thoughts in the post-credit scene? Did you think it was great? Did you think it was the dumbest thing you've ever seen?
Yeah, it was fine. I know people wanted to see like a full version of that scene from the musical, so I thought it was fine. I thought it was a cool way to mess with people as well, for people that were like, "Oh, I want a post credits," and they were like, "Nope, we're just going to give you this big gag." I do think it would have been funny if after all of that it showed like Kate doing like a standing ovation and clapping, standing next to Clint and going, "See, it's not that bad," and him looking like,
Yeah, no, it was funny. I was hoping we would get something like that at the end, like I said, but the fact that we didn't wasn't that big of a deal, but I thought that was nice. Let's talk about the obvious here. Playing a pretty big role in this episode was Kingpin making his MCU debut in the flesh after we saw that quick, photo of him in the very end of episode 5. Vincent D'Onofrio obviously coming back in the role, doing a great job, is someone who has not yet seen fucking Daredevil. That is my New Year's resolution, to at least start the show. I can't believe I haven't done that yet. I have to soon. But anyway, I'll go to you guys. Phil, starting with you. Thoughts on Kingpin, how he performed on this episode, and we'll get to his demise, or his fate, or not so much actually. And given what's implied in the comics, we'll get to that. But as far as how he did overall in this episode, what were your thoughts?
I thought it was good. I don't know if you guys noticed, but like that morning when I watched it, and I watched it like right when it went up. Mm-hmm. There's somebody immediately in my mentions and I didn't even say anything about Kingpin. I just tweeted out something like, "Hey, the themes in No Way Home and Hawkeye are very similar," or something like that. Mm-hmm. And somebody immediately hopped in my mentions and was like, "This version of Kingpin sucks." I'm like, "Okay, man. The episode has been out all of like less than an hour. Like, come on, man. Like the guy has been in the MCU a week and we're already complaining. Mm-hmm. It's like, come on." Like, and I think the funniest thing about the whole thing is one of the things the guy was saying is, I hate that he's wearing a Hawaiian shirt. Marvel always makes everybody into a joke, and I was like, okay, but that's clearly taken straight from the Family Business cover. That's the exact outfit he wears on that cover. Mm-hmm. And then it came out, D'Onofrio wanted to wear that shirt. It was his idea.
Yeah, that was his idea. I read that too.
So I'm like, all right, yeah, shut up, everybody. Just shut up. And so, no, I thought he was great. I was excited to see Kingpin again. I love the stuff like him getting shot point blank with the arrow and him just flicking it off like, get out of here, leave me alone. Yeah, I just love everything he did with Kate was just that he was annoyed. It didn't even feel like it was a real fight to him. He was just like, leave me alone. Like, get away. Mm-hmm. Go away. Yeah, I thought it was great.
Yeah, I thought he did a really good job. I mean, again, as someone who hasn't seen Daredevil yet, it's hard for me to kind of compare, but I was excited to see what he would do with the role and the accent and whatever, and how he would kind of match up against Kate, and I thought it was cool. I mean, getting fucking hit by a car and going through the window and whatever, and kind of brushing it off like nothing happened was great. Getting hit with the arrow and then again brushing that off as well was cool. I really liked it. I'm looking forward to seeing more of him in the MCU, which again I'm sure is inevitable. What about you, Chris? How do you think he kind of matched up against the characters of this show and in making his MCU debut?
I thought it was great. He came across just as menacing as he did in the Daredevil show. I feel like anyone who was complaining about the Hawaiian shirt just obviously didn't know the comics history of that, but also it's like, who cares? Like, it's a shirt. Mm-hmm. Like he's still wearing the white suit. Like, it's such a weird thing for people to complain about, especially when he played such a pivotal part in the episode and he had some really great scenes, and that's what you focus on.
Yeah, it's like people come up with these things and they don't understand things like motifs. It's like, all right, they clearly had all of the bad guys in the show wear red. This was a way to have Kingpin also wear red and have it be like a nice Easter egg to the comic. It's not that serious.
Plus, also, it's like maybe that's his like casual Christmas attire. Like maybe he was gonna throw a Christmas party for the bros, and and that was his like get up. And I love how the Tracksuit Mafia had on green and red tracksuits during the big fight. Like, it wasn't just red this time. Added a little bit of Christmas to it. But one thing we got to talk about is how good Yelena was in this yet again. Mm-hmm. Like, once again, she almost stole the show from the stars of the show.
Yeah, I mean, she did a great job. I thought the last episode, we talked about it at length last time, but I thought the performance she had in episode 5 was easily the best part about it. And I mean, she was great in this episode, but I forgot about her almost until you mentioned her, Chris, because there was so much going on with the season finale. But no, she was great. I mean, specifically at the end there when she confronted Clint asking. I mean, it is crazy, too, because I know he's an Avenger, but we talked about this, I think, about a week or two ago, where I'm sure it is difficult for her to understand what actually happened on Vormir because no one else was there aside from Red Skull and Black Widow, and Black Widow's dead. And obviously Red Skull's not going to come to his aid and attest to him. So.
Yeah, he's not out there giving interviews.
Exactly. He's not doing the shoot interviews. So I'm sure, like, it's hard for her to believe that that's what actually happened, that she sacrificed herself. And she brought up a great point, like, why did you let her do that? Like, blah, blah, blah. And again, him saying, like, oh, I tried. She said, you should have tried harder, which I thought it was just a great back and forth. What were your thoughts, Phil, on Yelena's role on this episode?
Man, I thought maybe I was overhyping it after I saw Black Widow, and I feel like she was the best part of that movie.
Yep.
And I wanted to say it then. I'm fully in the camp now after watching this show. Give Yelena a movie, man. Like, just come on, cut the check, Kevin. Let's make this happen.
Yes, for sure. Like, man, the stuff with Kate in the elevator was genuinely funny.
Yeah.
Like, and the way she carries herself too, like, she's not that much older than Kate's character. Like, I think she's supposed to be in her 20s as well, right?
Yes.
Probably, yeah, that would make sense.
But, like, because she's so much more experienced, she comes off as an adult and Kate comes off as a child. Like, Kate tries to reach for the buttons to push a bunch of them and she just slaps her hand away. But the little fight scene they had in that office was done really well. Some of the shots made it really obvious that it wasn't just like a one shot. It was really clear they were jumping from room to room. But yeah, just the way that those two play off each other, like, I would really love to see more of that. And if we do get some kind of Young Avengers thing, hopefully both of them are heavily involved.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Phil. No, I was just going to say, I like the one shot where, I mean, like you said, they kind of made it obvious that it wasn't, but I like the way they shot that scene and when Kate had put her hand on the elevator to smash all the buttons, which then led to the one shot scene. I don't know if they did this intentionally, but I feel like there were a lot of different odes to different Christmas movies on this episode too. I mean, that was from Elf. Them fighting in 30 Rock Center over there with the tree and whatever, very kind of gave me Die Hards a little bit, like at the party, and then it kind of goes to shit from there. I thought that was well done. No, she was great. I don't know where she's going to pop up next. That was my next question for you guys, but we'll see. What about you, Phil? Where do you think she'll pop up next? Do you think it's going to be a movie, or do you think we'll just see her in another show at some point, or the next Avengers movie, whenever that is?
I think she's going to show up in another show soon. But yeah, I'm fully in the camp of giving her own solo movie at this point.
She has to, yeah.
But no, I absolutely noticed the homages to all the Christmas movies a few episodes back. Like, this episode, they did like at least 3 nods to Home Alone, with them making the trick arrows, with him jumping out of the window. I mean, they did the exact same gag of Kate sliding down and landing on her feet, and then Clint trying to come out, and then, falling off the line, snatching off of the wall. Like, it's exactly like Home Alone.
Mm-hmm. No, that was great. I mean, it was cool too, because then obviously they face all the bad guys being the tracksuit mafia on this episode. But I don't think there was anything in Home Alone that will scar me as much as what we saw in this episode when they used the arrow that, instead of enlarging something, it shrunk them down to the size of like a toy truck, and then the owl picks them up and flies off. That to me was terrifying, because I feel like that would be the worst possible death possible.
You're telling me that scarred you more than watching Joe Pesci get burned across the top of his head with a blowtorch?
That's true. I mean, yeah, there's also getting a brick. I watched Home Alone 2 the other day on Christmas itself, and getting a brick thrown at his head from the top of a building, which is, it's fucking ridiculous. But
yo, in that first movie, both of them got hit in the head with like full paint cans. Like,
yeah, that was pretty bad.
They should both be dead, or at least severely brain damaged,
or at least incredibly concussed. Like.
Yeah.
One of the things I was curious about was, like, I know that it obviously wasn't the real tree, but, like, the way they filmed that scene of the tree coming down was awesome.
Yeah.
Like, that looked really great. And if that was all CGI, like, that was done really well for a TV show.
Yeah, they did a great job with it. That was really cool. And I saw people speculating too as to whether, like, where Spider-Man takes place during this, because at the very end of the movie, spoiler alert, They show him kind of swinging around the Christmas tree. Like a brief shot, you see the Christmas tree in that exact same spot, but it's still up and it's not down as it was on this show. So I don't know if that's significant or anything. But, the way they did that was really cool. That whole fight on the ice rink or whatever they were on at that point was just really well done, leading then to the Kingpin and Kate face-off, which was well done. I mean, he's a fucking freak as far as how he's built. And I saw people speculating about this as well, and you guys know more than I do as far from like the Daredevil show in the comics. Do you think that with the strength that he has on this episode, apparently more so than in the Daredevil show, do you think a super serum may have had something to do with that, or is that them just kind of emphasizing the strength that he had from other stuff like the comics and Daredevil and whatever?
I think he's just a really strong dude. Like that, they've always just portrayed him as being just a giant ball of muscle.
Okay.
Like even in the Daredevil show, he does display some pretty impressive strength at times. And, Kate's not exactly a big girl, so him throwing her around wasn't that much of a stretch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that wasn't much of a stretch at all. I thought that whole thing was well done, too. Then obviously leading to his ultimate fate on this episode, being confronted by Maya. She kind of gets her comeuppance in a sense where she shoots him. Now, they make you believe that she had shot and killed him. I mean, what else would you think? But if you kind of go deeper into it, I mean, obviously I'm sure you guys are already aware, as the comics kind of illustrate, that he was probably very likely shot in the eyes. I mean, I would very much doubt they would bring him in for just an episode and then kill off Kingpin immediately. I'm sure he will be brought back just, with his vision completely destroyed until he gets reconstructive surgery at some point. How did you guys feel about that as far as the way they shot it? And again, like I said earlier, if you don't see a body more often than not in the Marvel Universe, that means they're still alive, which is what they did here. But I feel like for people that weren't aware of that, for like someone like me who didn't find out until after the fact, who had seen that, it felt like a very weird way to not kill him off, but I don't know, imply that he was dead without him actually dying. I mean, he did say we don't see eye to eye, so I guess that was their way of kind of hinting at people that they were going that way of the comics. But that was a little confusing to me, so I'm interested to see how you guys felt about that.
I mean, he's clearly not dead. Anybody that thinks he's dead either hasn't watched enough television, or movies. I mean, come on, he's not dead. And the way that they very intentionally showed him taking all this damage early in the episode, I felt like was just to set it up for this scene. Not to say that an arrow and a bullet are the same, but we saw him take an arrow to the chest at point blank range, and he didn't even flinch. So I don't think a bullet at point blank range would kill him.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, it's very likely that he'll probably be a big part of the Echo show. Mm-hmm. Like, it feels like that's what they set up here. One thing I did want to bring up that really kind of surprised me was the dude Mozzie. Was that his name?
Yeah,
or Kazi?
I was going to ask you guys about that too, yeah.
Like, for one thing, he never should have been able to hold a candle to Hawkeye in a fight for more than 2 seconds. They never established him as being some great fighter.
Mm-hmm.
But the scene where he, like, catches the arrow that's flying at his face was like, how is he all of a sudden this, like, badass dude? That seemed a little weird to me.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Phil.
Wasn't he like an assassin, like, in the comic, though?
I'm not sure what his history in the comics was.
If I remember correctly, he's actually the guy that stabbed Hawkeye in the ear, and that's why he was going deaf.
Oh, okay.
Interesting. Yeah,
The best part, though, was when he caught the arrow, and he's like, nice shot, and Clint goes, yeah, no shit. Like,
yeah.
Come on. That's perfect.
That was well done.
Kazi is his name.
Kazi, yeah. Yeah, his whole... I don't know, maybe I missed something. I know he's been in the show a decent amount, but his whole character development to me was weird. And then he just gets... I don't know, like him and Maya fight for a brief second, and he's like, yeah, no, I can't go against Kingpin. Like, you're the problem. And then she kills him, like about a minute or two later, and then he dies in her arms. I just thought that whole thing was weird. Probably of the entire episode, I didn't really mind the Kingpin thing, I guess if you kind of know where it's going. I thought Kazi's death, not that I wanted to see him be brought back, but I thought Phil, again, maybe you can elaborate this. I thought he was a bigger deal in the comics from what I understand. So I feel like the way they did that was just bizarre to me. Maybe they cut out scenes that he was supposed to be in or trimmed down his character development, because I feel like his, I don't want to say rise and fall, but, whatever they were doing with him on the show, to me, just kind of felt out of place.
I mean, he fit in the sense that in the comic, I believe he led the tracksuit Draculas. That's what they're calling the comic.
Oh, okay.
And so it made sense for him to be Echo's like right-hand man, and like, him even saying like, this was supposed to be me, it's not supposed to be you. All that stuff was fine. It seemed like they like hinted that like they were like romantic at one point.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I got it. Like, I mean, they probably could have given more as to why he was such a he was so like dangerous all of a sudden. I feel like that was just a nod to him being kind of dangerous in the comic.
Yeah. What about you, Chris? Were you surprised to see him die, or how they were handled him here?
I mean, his character didn't feel super important, so I don't know if we'll ever see him show up again, but yeah, that was the only part of the show that really stuck out to me as strange. Like, all of a sudden they tried to make him this formidable dude.
Yes, yeah, like you said, he can't hold the candle to Hawkeye, and I mean, he dies, but the mom doesn't. She ends up going to jail. I like the interaction between her and Kate there at the very end, where she was, doing the whole gaslighting bullshit, and then Kate was like, I am taking responsibility, and then the police show up and arrest her, which I thought was well done. I thought for a second that she might die at some point too. I don't think Kate would kill her. I thought that would be a little weird, but I thought the way they handled that too, I liked that a lot more, as far as the kind of culmination for her character arc as well, ultimately getting sent to prison, as opposed to like her forgiving her mom and they're back on the same page. I mean, it was pretty clearly established by the beginning of this episode that the mom was bad news and there was just no redeeming her at all. So I thought that was well done. What were your thoughts on the mom and how she kind of had her comeuppance come to her as well, Chris?
I liked that it was Kate who like turned her in. Obviously we never got a scene of like Jack sort of finding out everything that she was involved in, but I guess that's not super important. But yeah, it was interesting, and I think it sets her up potentially in the future to maybe hold a grudge against her daughter. Like, oh, I did all this for you, and I was gonna give up all this criminal stuff for you, and then you go and turn me in. Like, she could very easily, if we ever get, a Kate Bishop solo movie or another season of this, she could be the big bad.
Yeah, that would be possible. I could see them bringing her back. I thought she did a good job towards the end of playing that heel character, so to speak. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see that. What about you, Phil? How did you feel about the mom and how she was handled here towards the end?
I thought all of her aspects of this episode were pretty good. I was sitting kind of cracking up at her being dead serious and saying, like, is this what you do on Christmas? Arrest your mother. And I'm like, yeah, you murdered a guy.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, that was great. No, I'm glad they had that reveal as well, the whole back and forth at the beginning of the episode that was recorded. No, it was good. I thought they did a great job with that. And yeah, a lot of the little things. I liked a lot of the interactions, like Kate with Kingpin, Kate with Yelena specifically, Yelena and Clint having that moment kind of with Black Widow. Well, kind of going off of that real quickly too before we wrap up here. How did you guys feel about how they paid tribute there to Black Widow at the end? Because I feel like she never really... I mean, obviously her death meant something to bring everyone back in Endgame, but I feel like by the end of Endgame, you're not really thinking about Black Widow's death. It's all about Tony, obviously, because he dies. He's the last person to die in that movie, and not so much Black Widow. They didn't have a giant funeral for her. They did for Tony. I feel like this was kind of this show, and specifically this episode, was their way of, honoring her character, giving her the respect she deserves, and giving her the send-off that she didn't have in the movies. So, how did you guys feel about that?
I thought it made sense to do it here because Clint was the closest to her of anybody on the team.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you got over the course of 6 episodes just, how much he's still dealing with the guilt of the fact that she sacrificed herself and he didn't. And I think you also tie that to like the Ronin stuff and how guilty he feels about what he was doing when everyone was away. I thought it was really good. I thought the way that they handled him trying to basically not get killed by Yelena.
Yeah.
I thought that was good. I thought him using the whistle to talk her down was smart, and I was sitting there like, why didn't you just do that from the beginning? But yeah, I thought it was very touching at the end, just the way they bonded over how close he was with her, and Yelena giving the line of, you got so much time with her.
Yeah. No, that's a great point, too. Yeah, I'm glad they hammered that home, that he got a lot of time with her and Yelena did not. Never really had a chance to say goodbye before she blipped in a bathroom and she blipped back in a bathroom and not knowing what hit her. What about you, Chris? How did you feel how good of a job, not good of a job did they do with the whole Black Widow tribute here on this episode?
I mean, I thought they handled everything really well. The exchange between Clint and Yelena was done really well. I especially liked how there came a point during their little scuffle when it seemed like he almost just wasn't even trying anymore. And he was just letting her get her anger out. Mm-hmm. And yeah, they both did a really good job with the emotional weight of that scene. I know some people were saying, like, oh, I wish Yelena would have been there at the end with Hawkeye and his family. And it's like, that's not really who her character is, though. Like, it made more sense for Kate to be there. But, Yelena at this point seems kind of like a loner. So I am curious to see where she pops up next. I could see the what is it, the Secret Invasion show, the one with Nick Fury. I could see her showing up in that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but I'm not sure. Yeah. There's a lot of places that she could potentially show up again if it's not in her own project. And as of right now, I don't think that they've announced anything specific related to Black Widow. So it seems like for a little while we might just see her in other stuff.
Do you think it's possible? Or sorry, go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say, it feels like they're doing that with a lot of these characters. Like, they're introducing a lot of characters that they don't have sequel plans in place for yet, and I'm kind of curious as to why. Like, I don't know. It's weird to me that they haven't announced some big team-up movie at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's going to happen eventually, and they can't wait forever. Like, some of these people will only be around for so long, so I do think within the next year or two, we'll get some kind of announcement like, either Avengers 5 or Young Avengers, whatever they decide to call it. And that's when we'll know a little bit more about what the trajectory of some of these characters is going to be.
Yeah, maybe once they fully flesh out all these new crop of characters. I mean, in 2021 alone, we got a lot of MCU debuts from a lot of younger characters. And, we've talked about it a lot before. Phil, I know you're a big advocate of it, the Young Avengers, and we've talked a lot about it. I mean, in almost every show that we've gotten this year, whether it was Falcon and Winter Soldier, WandaVision, this show, it seems, even Loki, even the younger version of Loki, they could have in a Young Avengers type thing. So there's a lot of characters in the animated shows as well. We'll see. And I feel like it's more a matter of when than if that happens. But what I was wondering was, I mean, they haven't announced it now. And with Loki, I feel like even before the show happened, they already announced the second season. With this show, it may make sense if you do a second season focused more around Kate. Maybe Yelena pops up there as well. Maybe that's where she kind of has her regular role. Because they hinted at the end of this episode, as they cut the credits, that her new name, that she would be Hawkeye, because she was coming up with like a new name. And do you think that was supposed to indicate that she will be like Hawkeye going forward, like with Sam? Like, he's just Captain America. He doesn't have a different name. He is Captain America. Like, do you think going forward, Chris, I'll start with you, that you think that she will just be Hawkeye and that she may end up getting a second season of the show focused around her, with Clint either not appearing or just appearing very little?
I do think that that's what that scene was implying when he's like, hey, I have an idea, and then it cuts to credits and you see the Hawkeye logo. Like, it does feel like that was him passing the torch. I know Jeremy Renner said he's still down to do more Marvel stuff, so I'm sure we'll see him again at some point. But if they do another season of this, what I think would be cool is a lot of people were advocating for a Black Widow and Hawkeye movie for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And instead we just got the solo Black Widow movie, obviously, and then she's dead. But, like, I think it would be cool if they did a Hawkeye and Black Widow show, but it's Yelena and Kate. Because technically, Yelena is a widow, so she could, start using that name in tribute, just like Kate is with Clint. So, yeah, I think it would be cool to see the two of them back together again. They just had such an interesting chemistry, and I don't know. It would be like a missed opportunity to not explore more of that, because I saw so many people talking about how the scenes between Kate and Yelena were the major highlights of both of these last two episodes.
Definitely. They were definitely among the best parts. What about you, Phil? Do you think that this could be setting up a second season? Maybe whether it be a second season or, as Chris said, maybe a movie, like a Black Widow and Hawkeye movie, focused around instead Kate and Yelena, because I feel like you just said, Chris, their chemistry is so strong. To not revisit that in another form of a second season or a movie or a show, I feel like would definitely be a missed opportunity.
Yeah, I feel like a second season is very possible. But at this point, like, I'm ready for them to greenlight a Black Widow movie. Like, do what you should have done with Scarlett when you had a chance, when she was red hot, and just greenlight the movie.
Yeah, I mean, they have so many things already set in stone. I mean, it's definitely possible. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time where they already have, like, their schedule set and they end up adding shit along the way. So, we'll see. I mean, we got, a lot of stuff to come in 2022. We got a bit of a Marvel break for the foreseeable future. I don't know. Do you guys know what the next show is by any chance? I know Book of Boba Fett's now, but that's Star Wars. But beyond that, do you guys...
It's supposed to be She-Hulk next, right?
Is it? Oh, do you know when that might be coming out? Maybe March?
I don't know. They released a teaser for it, like a 10 or 15 second thing.
Yeah, during their Disney Plus day or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, I think the original plan for that was January, but I don't think that's the plan anymore.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't heard much about it. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but either way, it's like we've got the Book of Boba Fett for at least it's 6 weeks, right?
Or I think
is that
so.
one?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the Book of Boba Fett season is supposed to be, but I know neither of you guys have seen that yet, so I won't go into too much about it, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely going to be checking out maybe not as soon as we're done here. I got to take off soon, but probably later on tonight I'll be watching it. I'll be staying off social media to avoid spoilers, but I know we talked about Mandalorian, Chris, but maybe we can get in a Book of Boba Fett, and I know we're talking Hawkeye here today, but maybe at some other point we can review that first episode, because I'm curious to get your thoughts on it once I'm finished watching it.
Yeah, and then we obviously still have to talk about Spider-Man and maybe Eternals at some point.
What's Eternals?
You guys have seeing it.
Yeah. What, did you end up seeing that, Phil, or no? I forget.
I still haven't seen it. At this point, I think I'm going to wait for it to come to Disney Plus.
Well, isn't it supposed to come out on Disney Plus like on the January 12th or something, like really soon?
Yeah, I was going to say like a week or two, yeah. Just wait 2 weeks and it's on there, so at this point, don't bother wasting the money. There's a lot of stuff we got to be talking about. Definitely Spider-Man will probably be the next thing in the next couple days. I know we've already spoken about it privately and before we've hit record here a few times in the last week or so, but I'm just still excited to get right into that, because there's so much to discuss with that movie, because it's just so good. And I think seeing it a second time, whether it be in theaters or waiting, I don't know if that's a movie that's going to be out on Disney Plus is the problem, because it's Sony movies, so I don't know if they're going to put it on there at some point. They probably won't. But it is worth seeing at least a second time.
Didn't they announce some deal that like all the Spider-Man stuff would be coming to Disney Plus at some point soon?
Yes. I don't know if that has to do with the new movie, though, too.
Yeah, I think it would involve the new stuff as well.
Okay. Yeah, hopefully they put it on there soon.
I don't know. I mean, I assume you guys saw that thing I posted in our group chat about the next Venom movie possibly involving Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man.
Yeah. That would be crazy. I saw a lot of fan theories having to do with that. Like how you can bring Andrew Garfield back without giving him like a Spider-Man 3, which I mean is possible, I guess, but just putting him in a different Sony property or a Sony project would make sense, and that would totally make sense. But yeah, no, when you shared that, I got excited, because that would definitely be interesting. But we'll see. Again, like I said, a lot to look forward to. Book of Boba Fett for right now for us Star Wars fans. But Marvel break for the foreseeable future. We were treated well in 2021, but as we wind down here, one last question for both of you guys. Phil, I'll start with you. Of everything that we've gotten, let's stick with the show specifically. There's been a lot of movies, but sticking with the shows, your favorite show. I don't want to get in like the worst of of the shows and whatever. We don't have to really get into that, but what you really enjoyed from what Marvel gave us this year between Hawkeye, Loki, What If, Falcon and Winter Soldier, and WandaVision from earlier this year, because we were treated very well by Marvel as far as the shows are concerned on Disney Plus.
Yeah, I don't think we've had a bad Marvel Disney Plus show yet. Like, I think all of them have been like good to varying degrees. I would say at this point, I think WandaVision is my favorite. I don't know, maybe it was just at that time we didn't have a whole bunch of stuff where people were like watching everything together. And I think like those weeks when WandaVision was coming out and just the anticipation for every episode, I'm not sure any other of the shows have captured that yet. And I think that just goes to show just how good that show was when it was really clicking.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. That was definitely part of the appeal. And I think that was the only show, too. I mean, I was going to say What If. That only got 9 episodes. What If and they got 9 or 10. But all the other all the rest of the shows have been 6. But yeah, no, you're right. I think it was because we were in such a lull for a while with Marvel stuff that it'd been so long. But not just that. I mean, the show, it was a genuinely great show. I know people that watched it all at once and still very much enjoyed it. Yeah, no, that was great stuff. What about you, Chris? Of all the shows that we've seen this year, what's been your favorite and some of the highlights?
I definitely think WandaVision stands out as my favorite too, and I think part of the reason was because it was the first of these Marvel TV shows that everybody was like treating it as must-see television. But it also felt like it was going to have the biggest implications for other properties moving forward. So I know some of that was blown out of proportion with the fan theories and whatnot, but the rest of these shows have felt relatively self-contained. Like, I know some of them have things that will affect the MCU going forward, like obviously Loki with the multiverse stuff and whatnot, but I think What If got pretty close for me too, because I just liked the variety and the different versions of the characters that we got to see. And the fact that we're apparently, like, I think they've actually confirmed that they're doing a Marvel Zombies show. But the rumor is also that a Captain Carter show is coming.
Yeah, that would make sense, yeah.
Yeah, I would really love it if we got a full season of a Captain Carter show with that character. Especially if they're not going to do that in live action, because I don't know how Haley Atwell feels about, like, you know, do I want to spend a year eating nothing but broccoli and steamed chicken and working out?
Yeah.
Maybe animation. Like, so many of these guys talk about what their workout regimen and diet is for these projects, and it's insane. So I understand why some people might be like, yeah, why don't you just animate those muscles for me and we'll do it as a cartoon. Like, I would totally get that.
What about Multiverse and Madness? What if she shows up as a one-off there, as opposed to giving her a whole-on movie or a show or something?
I mean, that certainly would be nice. But, you know, I'm not holding out hope for it at this point. I just think that if they do the cartoon, that would be a good step in the right direction. But we already know we're getting a second season of What If, so maybe she'll pop up there again before she gets her own. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that I'm sure. I'm definitely expecting that. I think I don't know if it was the post-credit scene or just the ending, but that last episode of What If, they had hinted at something with her and, you know, finding Steve, her Steve in her universe. So I'm sure that second season will either be revolving around her or she'll play at least some sort of part in it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. There's a lot to look forward to, like I said, going forward into 2022, and this was a great way to cap it off, so I'm looking forward to the future. But appreciate both of you guys for joining me almost every week for 12 months now, breaking down literally every show that we've talked about, and all the movies as well. And we still got more to come, like I said, Spider-Man and maybe Eternals at some point as well to talk about that. But yeah, we look forward to the future. Phil, people can follow you on the Twitter machine at PhilDL616. Chris, you're on Twitter at BR_doctor. This has been great, guys. Thanks again for all your help throughout the year. Always fun chatting with you guys, and look forward to speaking with you in the new year.
Thanks.